Loss Prevention and Safety for the Sherman Retail Group. Today we're going to discuss proper receiving procedures. Proper receiving is crucial to all facets of our business. It ensures that you have proper balance on hands, that vendors are paid promptly and the correct amount. Come physical inventory time, it can create shrinkage or an overage in your store. It's extremely important with replenishment and ultimately the reason we're all here to drive sales. Today the goal of the training video is to make it very simple for you. We're going to break down receiving from the point that it enters your store to the point where it's sold to the customer. What's really important to know is that there are only 4 different types of shipments that you're going to be receiving. 1 is vendor, 2 is AG, 3 is warehouse, and 4 is store-to-store transfer. Irregardless of what type of shipment it is, you'll always sign, date, and carton count on the packing slip as soon as it enters your store. Now that the shipment has arrived in your store and you signed, date, and carton counted the packing slip, it's time to determine what type of shipment it is, whether it's a vendor, an AG, a warehouse, or a store-to-store transfer. Here we have a warehouse shipment. This shipment is from Warehouse 690 as noted on the return address label. That's the first way that you can identify what type of shipment you have. The second way is open the shipment up, find the packing slip, and as discussed earlier, we want to make sure that we note on there, sign it, date it, and carton count the amount of boxes that you actually did receive. On all warehouse shipments, irregardless if it's from Osceola or the TNDC, you only need to carton count. You do not need to line item each piece of merchandise that you receive. Now it's time to enter the warehouse shipment into the POS back office. Open up the back office icon and enter your user ID and password. Now you will go to F2 Inventory, F6 Transfers. You will locate the home office reference number and hit F5 to receive. When it says, "Are you sure you wish to receive this receiver?" always hit yes. It will bring you to the print preview screen, at which point you can X out. You do not need to print that. By completing this, you will escape out of the transaction and back out of the back office. After you've entered the packing slip into the back office, you'll return to it and the manager who entered into the back office would write entered by, sign, and date. Locate the transfer number on the packing slip and make sure that that matches up with what you just entered in on the back office. Keep in mind there could be multiple transfer numbers on a packing slip. After you find each of those numbers, you will circle verifying that it is correct and initial next to each one of those. Now that you've completed entering your warehouse shipment into the back office, you'll take this document and put it in your current month receiving folder. Let's reemphasize a couple things about warehouse shipments. Always receive these in full. On this document, you only need to document the carton count and sign and date. The person who enters it in the system, they will go ahead and sign and date that they entered it. You do not have to print anything, but make sure that the transfer numbers are double verified after you entered it by circling each one of them and initialing. Another type of warehouse shipment you may receive is from the TNDC, otherwise known as 693. You would find that if you received it in on a transfer. There's actually 2 different types you can receive it. A transfer, which you would receive it on your transfer in screen, which is what we just showed you on the previous warehouse shipment. You may also receive it in on a packing list. This is going to be slightly different. So let's talk about that. These 2 boxes are a shipment from the TNDC. They look the same, but they're actually different. The bottom one came in on a green and white packing slip. That's a transfer in. It's exactly the way that we just showed you on the warehouse shipment we just processed from 690. You would receive that in full. The top one came in on a packing slip with a PO number. May look different, but you do the exact same thing. You receive it in full, but on a different screen. Let's go up front and talk about that. Before we move to entering this in on the POS system, I just want to reiterate, like all shipments, you would note the carton count and sign and date when you do receive the shipment in your store. Okay, now it's time to enter it in your system. The difference between the warehouse and the PO is, for the PO, you'll find it under Inventory and then Vendor Receiving F3. At this point, you can go to Sort Order, type in F4 or hit Home Office Reference Number. Under the search column, type in your Home Office Reference Number and locate the PO. Once you have that, you can hit F5 or Receive, and we'll ask you if you would wish to receive this receiver. At this point, you would select Yes and tell you that it is now received in full. Do you want to close it? Select Yes. And you do not have to print, so you can X out of this. At this point, you can escape out of the back office, and you have completed receiving this. After you've completed entering it in your back office, again you would write entered by, sign and date the packing slip. I would like to reiterate the fact that these may look different. Keep in mind, this one here, it is from the TNDC, it is a warehouse shipment, you receive it in full under the transfer screen. When it's the all-white packing slip from the TNDC, it's a PO which you receive under the vendor receiving screen. That's the only difference. Receive it in full, both of them, sign and date.